So I want you to think about something that I think is really important. Imagine that you were your own business and that you had to manage your own business. So think about this, right? So let's say the average person makes $50,000 a year and they do that for 20 years. They have $1 million at their disposal, right? That's a lot of money. $1 million is a lot of money. And yet most of us walk around thinking that that is not a lot of money. And they don't plan accordingly. They don't think about what to do in terms of the day-to-day. But you can change that, and you can think about all of the possible things that you can do. And imagine yourself, if I was to run $1 million company, I know it's not $1 million in 1 year, but $1 million is a lot of money. And if you're to run $1 million company, how would you operate that? And how would you think about your life differently? And what decisions would you make? You'd probably make a lot more intentional decisions. You probably think about strategic planning where you might invest for 5 years, 10 years, and think about long-term projects and short-term projects, and think about operating expenses, the things that you need to do on a daily basis and expend on a daily basis. Instead, we think about these sort of short-term. We think the long term. Most of us think, if I said make a long-term decision, you're thinking 5 years out. But I'm thinking, and I'm saying, if you're to make a long-term decision, you probably should think 30 years, 40 years out, and do all of the efforts and things that will actually get you there in 30 years. Now that seems crazy, right? If I say do the things that will get you to the point of you being okay with who you are and what you've done in 30 years. And that's a crazy thing to point out, but that's really what it takes, right? Like there's nothing in this world that is very short. There's nothing, even having weight loss, even eating healthy, even making friends. Think how long it is when you move to a new city, how long it actually takes you to make friends. It takes you at least a few years to make friends. So, if you want to change something in your life, if you actually want to do some major things and invest in yourself, why not think about this as a long-term commitment that's going to take you 30 years? Why not figure out how you can do strategic planning so that you can do a good job in your life? Think about short-term and long-term goals. Think about how you can sort of manage operating expenses. Hello. Think about all these different things, how you'd operate a business, what that would look like, so that you can ensure that you're doing really well in the long run, right? It's very much this sort of slow, long-term thing. And now, because of that, because it takes 30 years to do something really good and to make some positive changes, then perhaps you're going to be less, you're going to be better on yourself. You're going to be a little bit more forgiving of the little silly things that happens. Now remember, when these large companies make decisions, they don't think about the year to year, or at least they shouldn't. They should be thinking about 30 years, what's going to happen in the next decade, maybe what's going to happen in the next 2 decades. Now, if that's the case, wouldn't it be silly to look at your year-end performance and say, I didn't perform that well. I'm not doing that well today. Why not look at how you're doing over the course of decades? Now, I know that means it's a little tricky to do that. And I know that there's going to be a lot of external pressure to do those things. But guess what? That's what big companies that are very successful, that do really good things, that's what they do. They push away the outside world. They think that the outside world is a bunch of garbage. And it is, right? They don't care about you. The outside world doesn't care about you. They're just looking for that short-term profitability from you. So why not push that stuff away and think about yourself in the long term? What it takes. What does it mean to live a long and prosperous, healthy life that's 30 years or takes 40 years to do something that's wonderful? What does that look like? What are those goals? Does that mean you actually want to not only have financial success in your life, but also you want to spend some time with family and friends? Does that mean that you actually want to be recognized by other people? What does that all mean to you? I think if you stop and think about this as this very long-term decision-making framework, you're going to make a lot different decisions than how you're thinking about it today. It's like, I need to get all this stuff done and to do all these things so that I can be successful today. Or, I need to spend all my time with my family, because if I spend all my time with my family, if I don't, they're not going to like me today. It's not how it works. You think about the long term. You think about, okay, you know what, today it's not going to be easy. It's not going to go well. And I might have some fights with my family today, but in the long run, that's going to help us out. Or, I might not get along with my kids today, but in the long run, that's going to help out because we're thinking about the long term. Now, the other thing is maybe I don't get everything I wanted to do today done. Well, that's okay too. I still have that work to do tomorrow. It shows up for some reason the next day and the next day and the next day. So it's all about thinking of how you can fit all of this stuff together. And it's a messy process. There's not one way that you can sort of do all of this kind of stuff and all of a sudden you're all that much more productive, and you do these little productive tips and productivity tips and all that stuff and everything changes, or you do these little family tips and everything changes. Nah. You got to think about the long term, where you're making these slow incremental investments that take a long time to actually get to where you are feeling good about yourself and others. And now for me, myself, I'm just really starting at this. This is all pretty new. I'm 42 years old. I still have many more years left. And if I don't, that's okay. I knew that I was building it and it was getting there. But it's this long-term journey of getting to someplace that's really cool. And I'll get there when I'm maybe 60 or 70. But here's the thing. I'm not going to stop when I'm 60 or 70. I'm just going to keep going and keep doing good things and helping out other people and trying to make other people feel good about themselves and feel good about where they are. And, all of those things matter to me. So I just want you to think about this. It's never about a 1-year project or a 5-year project or whatever. It's about doing good things for a long time. And if that's the case, you're going to make a lot different decisions in your life.